Go. Hey, welcome everybody. The first day of spring. We are really pleased to have you here. So we are BCL, your business climate leaders, talking about how we engage businesses and how we support you in doing that. So while we get going here, I'm going to throw up a poll. So if we're waiting for a few more of our friends to come, go ahead and respond to our poll so we know where you're at, where you're coming to us from, and kind of what your level of engagement with businesses so far is, and what you would like to get out of today's session. Everybody seeing that poll?
Yeah, if you're calling in by phone, you won't see the poll. So if you can view the screen, you can take the poll.
I don't see anybody voting here. So everybody does have the poll though?
Yes,
okay.
I voted.
Oh, well, I guess I can vote here. Why not?
Someone's got a dog.
If you have a dog, if you can mute yourself, that'd be great. I'll actually go in and mute everybody. I'm going to mute everybody, and then Bruce, if you'll, or I guess Rebecca is going to go first. So. For some reason, it's not showing that anybody is taking the poll here. I'm not sure why that is. It's not giving me an update. Usually it shows progress, and it's for whatever reason it's not doing that.
I see Bill Nash. Hi, Bill. Hey, can you see the poll on your screen?
Thumbs up. Does everybody see the poll? Okay.
Yeah, I just completed it.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'll just give a couple more minutes. For some reason, it's not tallying up here, but if I end it, hopefully it will still give us the results. Welcome, and if anybody just got here, then take a look. You should have a poll in front of you. Fill out a couple questions to get us oriented, and welcome. Okay, I will end the poll right now and see if I can then share results. See, it didn't give me any results. Are you guys seeing any results?
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe for some reason I'm not able to. Does somebody want to go through, Harold or Bruce, and kind of give us a little bit of a tally here? Harold, I can't hear you.
Yeah, so in terms of what region, my poll shows that nobody answered the what region you're part of. It shows that, oh, sorry. Nobody was from Appalachia. 22% from California, 33% from Great Lakes, 0 from the Pacific Northwest, 6 from Mid-Atlantic, 11% from Mountain West, 11% from the Northeast, 0% from North Wind.
I didn't get that far in the in the survey yet. Sorry, you got one person at least.
From North Wind, great. So strong Great Lake showing in California, great. And second question, Harold?
And what is your, let's see, we had 39% saying this will be the first experience working with businesses, 39% saying, well, I've done a few meetings, a few endorsements, and have worked in business. And 22%, got a lot of noise coming from somewhere, 22% saying that they've managed Grasstop's teams that had many meetings.
Super. Okay.
Third question, what would you like to learn today? We have 4 choices. They want to learn more, 28% about support resources, 67% on increasing their comfort level in engaging companies. I got to tell you right now, just go in there with a smile. Have a great time. Don't be nervous. If you get a meeting with somebody, it's because they want to. Third question was strategies for specific companies and industry. You want to hear what strategies are for specific companies. And we want you to tell us what those industries or companies are by using chat. 56% want that kind of information. And then 11% have something else that they will tell us about in chat.
Super. Last one, Harold.
The last question is, do you know about the April 13th Business Advocacy Conference? 67% said yes, 33% said no.
All right. Well, we will fill in those 37%. So with that, thank you, everybody. That gives us a little bit of orientation in terms of as we kind of dive in for the next 2 hours. I'm Randy Salem. I'm in the Bay Area, part of the steering team, and you're going to be introduced to Rebecca first, then Harold and Bruce, all part of the steering team, and Harold and Bruce, co-founders of Business Climate Leaders. So again, happy spring and welcome to be. Great to have you here. We're going to work to give you a sense of how to effectively engage local businesses, kind of all the resources that we do have to help you in doing that, and recognizing the support that we can provide for you. We're actually going to go and get a chance to do an actual role play for a scenario that you choose to give you a little confidence in how to wield that smile, as Harold said, in going in and just engaging with businesses, and to get ready to bring more support for this Business Advocate Conference that we're doing on April 13th. Okay, so starting now, we're going to jump into a presentation, kind of the nuts and bolts of things. Then we'll get a chance to do a role play, have a little bit of a break, and then we'll take some time to actually go into breakout groups and talk about some specific actions that you would like to take or think that we could be taking to move things along with business. With that, I will turn it over to Rebecca Keller on the East Coast in Boston.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm Rebecca Keller, and we have some, okay, what is Business Climate Leaders? Well, BCL is a CCL action team. It is part of the Grass Tops outreach lever, a very important part. And we are here to support CCL volunteers as they engage businesses of any size. And with the goal, that is, of building a long-term partnership for a livable world. Thank you. Okay, I was just a little out of sync with you, Randy, but I think I'm back on track. So how BCL engages with business. We engage at various levels. One is with what we call Go teams. So if your chapter or if your state wants to line up local and regional business to support your lobby efforts, Business Climate Leaders can help. There are sector teams. These teams apply their expertise and experience with specific industries to build relationships with companies and trade groups in that industry. And then the team shares their relationships with CCL DC staff or with CCL state and chapter groups. And the third thing we do is to sponsor events, mainly to educate business about carbon fee and dividend. I mentioned sector teams, and here's a list of them. Yeah. And I said we can help, whether you're interested in these sectors you just saw, or in doing work in your chapter or state. We have a lot of resources. So you may wish to start off writing to a prospect, and we have letters or ideas for phone calls. Pretty much any area where you would want help, we have something. If you can't find it, ask, and we'll help you find it or create it if need be. We have declarations. We have, like, I don't know, about 10 of them or so. You can see them. They are a great marketing tool for CCL chapters. helping them reach out to local business and bring together the collective voices of those smaller companies within an industry. So you can go directly to each declaration from the Take Action menu on the BCL public-facing website, which is at, well, you see it right there, businessclimateleaders.org. And that's all I have.
So I think we're over to Harold.
Okay,
Introducing
so
Harold Hedelman.
hi, folks. So you're going to release this screen, and I'm going to share one of mine. So once this screen sharing is stopped, there we go. Then I can go find one for you. My background within CCL began, while I find my screen, I'll try and talk to you guys about it. Began really after watching Inconvenient Truth and saying, I got to switch, quit my job. I started working to try and use CCL methods with the Natural Resources Defense Council. And we tried using CCL methods to convince Midwestern states to support the Clean Power Plan, which NRDC was an author of. And then I just switched to working full-time, and we founded Business Climate Leaders, not working, but volunteering full-time. So here we are. I'm going to share my screen now in just a second. I figured out where it is. Back here, share screen. Thanks for putting up with that little delay. There we go. So we have a call to action this year. And it's because, you know, the political landscape has changed. This is a deck of cards that is a complete narrative from start to finish of a meeting that you could follow the narrative that's outlined in this deck. And the deck has way more slides than you probably want to use. It's kind of like the Climate Reality Project slide deck. If you studied the Climate Reality Project work with Al Gore, you know, they give you 600 slides. Here we only have about 100, but you pick and choose what you need for a particular presentation. It's a good narrative. It has some very good speaker notes in it. You can find this deck in the bclresources.org site under supporting resources. In the deck, you go through an introduction of what you're going to want to be talking about, that we have a window of opportunity right now because of the change in the administration and Congress. We have an opportunity because for the first time in almost a decade, the political winds are in our favor. Second point you really want to make to whoever you're talking to, that businesses want carbon pricing, and without their voice, we may not get carbon pricing across the finish line. The third really important message is that carbon fee and dividend is not just one solution out of many that are needed. It is a preeminent solution. It's the keystone. You know, you introduce yourselves to CCL, you go through an introduction to Business Climate Leaders if you're working with us. You again talk about why it's a critical moment, why now is so important. In other words, there are so many choices for legislators. Are they going to pick, legislators and policymakers, are they going to pick carbon pricing? And it's the voice of business that can really convince them to do that. Policy makers need to hear key messages from business. And one of those key messages is that carbon pricing reduces emissions the most, and all the other good things that you know about fee and dividend. The business voice is really crucial in Congress. Sheldon Whitehouse is one of the longest running advocates for taking action on climate in the Senate. Just says it over and over again. Climate crisis requires corporate America to start showing up. In other words, signing pledges, saying you're going to be net zero. That's all great for companies to do. They need to lobby with us. Business voices can really carry the day. They need to be part of the chorus of people standing in front of Congress and calling for a price on carbon. There's a great set of slides in here about the specifics of which business voices say they want a price on carbon. starting with the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, a federal regulatory agency. The commissioners were appointed, and the current commissioners were appointed by President Trump and approved by the Senate. And yet they made the point that without action on climate, our financial system will not be sustainable. They made the point that a price on carbon is the single most important step. So coming from the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, that's a very respected business voice. We have the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, as you probably know, recently calling for something similar. They said effective climate policy should include a market-based approach. When you hear the word market-based, you're really talking about things like a price on carbon that rely on the action of the market. And they're talking about it being across the economy. In other words, economy-wide. If you say market-based and economy-wide, you're really talking about a price on carbon. So there's the chamber about facing for the first time in a long time saying the same thing. That's a formerly climate denying member of the business community, the most important business voice in the world. So there you go. We have the Chamber of Commerce. We have the Federal Reserve asking banks to measure, mitigate, and report the risk that their assets have from climate exposure, from carbon exposure, which is the same. If you report that risk, you're essentially going to price the assets that have that risk, reprice them, and that's like putting a price on carbon. So even the Federal Reserve is saying we need to incorporate the externalities. So that's a big important voice. Another one is BlackRock. No issue ranks higher. We need carbon prices to minimize the cost of reducing emissions. Business Roundtable, 200 CEOs, the biggest companies in the US. Any such approach for reducing emissions must include placing a price on carbon. The US Climate Financial Working Group, American Bankers Association is part of it here. Look at these. You might not recognize all of these organizations, but they really represent the financial services community in the United States. Some of them are international as well. Every one of these and these are all trade groups, by the way, and they are all calling for a price on carbon. You just go through the list. We support a price on carbon. We support a price on carbon. You know, I should switch this to present mode, folks. Make it easier for you to see.
Two more minutes, Harold, if you want to.
Okay, great. You look at all these. These are all, we support a price on carbon, blah, 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 blah. Very important organizations that should really matter. The National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicines, same kind of thing. We call for an economy-wide price on carbon. If you want to believe in science, believe in that we need a price on carbon. Chubb, one of the most well-known international insurance companies, putting a price on carbon. American Petroleum Institute, the oil industry head, saying we need an economy-wide market force. Essentially, they're talking about a price on carbon. You probably have all heard the Economist statement, 357 of them, including Nobel Prize winners, former chairs of the Economic Silicon Valley Leadership Group here. Do you know that we have over 1,000 endorsers, small business, medium business size endorsers, including all these groups listed on the left. All of these are endorsements mostly obtained by chapters around the country. So those of you who are on this call, you can add to this list. At the other end of the scale, corporate carbon dividend supporters. Look at these. Many of these you recognize: Total, ExxonMobil, Exelon, MetLife, Microsoft. They're all supporting it. In terms of public health, The Lancet is one of the most respected medical journals. Single most powerful strategic instrument, strong and sustained carbon pricing. This is an important one. We discovered that because of California's cap and trade price on carbon from 2013 to 2018, fence line communities showed a disproportionately high reduction. In other words, they got more health benefits than other communities because they're near the oil refineries and power plants that were making emissions. So it's good for the EJ community too. We have the IPCC calling for a price on carbon. If you believe in science, trust the IPCC. Minimum 2030 price, $105 a ton.
You want to wrap it, pull it together, Harold? Last piece.
Okay. So here we go. This deck can really help you make the case. Feel free to take it customize it, and use it. I'm going to stop the share.
Thanks, Harold. So
Uh,
that's a great, go ahead.
Quick question, can we, this is Patrick, can we get that link also?
Yeah,
Just
it's
make
in
sure
chat.
we-
It's in chat.
Okay.
Rebecca put it in chat, so it's there.
Okay, the other one as well. Okay,
Mhm.
I saw hers go in there.
And before, so Harold kind of framed, Rebecca talked about who BCL is, how we can help you. Harold did a beautiful job kind of framing the overall kind of position and the call to action to get businesses engaged and the resources in terms of support that's out there. So just want to open it up for some questions. I know there's some questions in chat, but if I will start with that. Harold, one question was in terms of engaging with companies that aren't comfortable signing the EICDA because they're concerned about losing their customers.
Oh, I wish I'd showed you the slide that showed that something like 36% of Americans actually have rewarded companies that support carbon pricing by buying their products, and 30% have punished companies that don't support effective action on climate by avoiding their products. And that's a study from Yale's program on climate communications. So I don't think companies really need to worry about that. They, you know, most people, in fact, 68% approve of companies putting a price on carbon, or there being a price on fossil fuel pollution.
And I would also add, if they are concerned about publicly endorsing, they can privately do it. They, you know, it'd be great to have, we would still love for them to privately send a letter to their representative or senator saying that they think action on climate is important. And even if they're not willing to go as far as supporting the EICDA, they can support carbon fee and dividend, or even just legislation on climate. So there's different levels that are still supportive of our work.
Yeah, that's so true. And especially right now, we don't have a bill in either the House or the Senate. So in the few months that are remaining, it actually is easier for businesses to support the principles. The Silicon Valley Leadership Group, representing companies like Apple and Google and Facebook, and down the list of companies that you know about, supported the EICDA, not by endorsing it, by saying we support this in principle. So when they go in front of legislators, and they do, that's what they say. They say this kind of bill would be great, and we would support it. And that's what, if you can get your companies in front of members of Congress doing exactly that, it's just as good as saying they support the EICDA.
So before we kind of dive in, a deeper dive into the tactics and logistics of engaging with companies, any kind of questions on what we've covered so far? Open your mic if you want to ask a question.
I have a question. You went through a fantastic array of organizations and firms that are supportive of carbon fee and dividend, at least for pricing. Are there those who are not supportive, explicitly not supportive, and why?
Murray Coal Company might be one. There's the usual suspect of very conservative and very fossil fuel centric businesses. But I have not heard, in my experience, which is pretty broad in this arena, I see Greg Hammers on there. He's talked to an awful lot of people, of anybody coming out and saying, we don't want climate action. These are potential allies, by the way. There are a lot of people who don't even buy any of this stuff, but or if they're critical of carbon, pricing, they're thinking of a cap and trade scheme that's corrupt and where companies can buy these fake carbon offsets so they can continue polluting fence line communities, that sort of thing. So if they get right down to the specifics of a revenue neutral carbon fee and dividend, like our EICDA.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything specific, and definitely not any business groups coming out, other than, as you mentioned, whether it's Coke or Murray Coal. But there's obviously the group of people that anything that is a tax won't touch anything that says tax on it. So that's the Grover Norquist, right? side of things. And then you unfortunately have every Republican member of the House that signed the Scalise agreement every year saying that they won't support carbon tax. So that's kind of what we're up against.
I was thinking of manufacturers of cement, steel, glass, high energy folks.
Yeah, I think
Where are they standing?
I know the steel industry, at least ArcelorMittal, and I have to think the others, they want something done about climate. They understand the need for something like a carbon tax, but they know they're just going to have to spend billions. I mean, even if they have the technology to do what is needed to create steel in a more environmental way, it's going to cost them, I don't know, I was just reading $60-70 billion to rebuild their plants. So it's very tough for the steel industry.
Aviation is another good example of a sector that wants to do better, but because they're so heavily reliant on fossil fuels. I mean, it's the biggest single operating cost, right? And until there are alternatives in these hard to decarbonize sectors, they may not be opposed, but they're asking for help in how to make the transition. And that's the kind of thing that things outside of a carbon tax bill could be helpful.
Okay, one other.
I throw
question.
in,
Yeah, please.
can I contribute one roadblock
Yes,
that I've encountered here?
please.
I specifically talked to somebody who did plastic packaging. So basically every single Amazon package you get has got the air bubbles in there. They said, we love the idea of a tax. That's great, but we really can't buy into the idea of how you want to distribute that. That leaves it to the consumer. We want that money to be spent on plastic recycling specifically. So we have a hard time supporting you because of that. That's our concern. If you just throw it out to the consumers as a dividend, they're going to have they have a problem because people might opt to use some other type of packaging material, paper, whatever, that could even have a higher carbon footprint.
I think the overriding answer here is that we have a very powerful and a very fundamental foundational piece of legislation. As you can see already, there have been a number of other bills introduced. There have been proposals from Paul Hawkins' drawdown. There's lots of other ideas out there. CCL isn't actively lobbying for most of those. Occasionally we endorse one or two selected, but there are a lot of other things that need to be done for climate. And I guess if I say, I don't think anybody should be left behind. So, we can be supporting these other things, whether you're in the coal industry or the plastics industry. Let's just not sweep you into the dustbin, as Mitch McConnell might say.
Thank you, Bruce. And on that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, I will share my screen then. Oops, you cannot share your screen. Someone else, Harold, you need to, or somebody needs to unshare it.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Alrighty. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So, hi everybody. My name is Bruce Hagan, and I'm one of the co-founders of this outfit. And I'm going to talk about the mechanics. So Harold's got a really great summary of all the wonderful things that have been happening lately with business support for carbon pricing. How do we get that in front of our people, the people who matter, the people who are going to step forward and talk to their member of Congress in some way? So rather than do a bunch of slides, I figured, well, heck, we've pretty much already done this on our website. So if you just bcl-resources.org, you will get this. It's linked in a lot of our sites. And you go to how to engage with companies. This is what I'm going to give you a very fast overview for. All of the things on here have links into more details, whether it's highlights or actually a manual that talks about how do you identify, prioritize, and profile your businesses, and so on. So I invite you to get to this page, bookmark it, and start reading through it. You might have the answers to your questions there. I'm always available to take a phone call or an email. So the one thing I wanted to tell you is we have this very cleverly named acronym called ICE-T, which stands for Identify, Contact, and Engage Businesses, or grass tops for that matter, and do it with a team. So I'm going to go over this at a high level. Let me see if I can make this larger on the screen. How's that look?
That's good.
Okay, so teamwork is so important. We have a lot of people out there who are great lone wolves. They work independently. The supreme example of this is what's his name who went down to Florida from Pennsylvania?
Jay Butera.
Jay Butera, yes. So Jay did an incredible amount of work. He sort of set the model for this. He worked with the folks in Florida, but in terms of reaching out to community leaders and business leaders, that's great. It helps almost everybody else to have a partner, to have a buddy, to have a team. And you can be good. You might have the constituent relationship with a particular company, a customer, former employee, shareholder, but you need an expert perhaps, and we can provide an expert. We plan the meeting as a team. And I think also very important is we try to meet on a regular basis. So if that's once a month or every 2 weeks, even if it's just a half an hour, how are we doing? We go through our list. Anybody need any help with anything? Hooray, let's go. So teamwork, very important. Now you notice here that on this page, which I linked to from the BCL website, there's this team guide. Each one of these has a lot of details. I'm not even going to do anything other than scroll through this, but it talks about different roles and responsibilities. So if you really want to deep dive into this, that's the place to go. And each one of these steps has its own section. So the first part of the ICE is identify. Who are we going to talk to? There's businesses all over the place. You don't need to be an expert in any of those businesses. You just need to learn enough to be effective and team up with people who can help. And we've all seen, and I could tell some stories about this, but that's the way to work. Then, what do you know about these people? What can you discover from friends, other people in CCL or online, and what is their potential for effective advocacy? So we have this little in the depths of the documentation is how accessible are they? How likely are they to support? And what will be the impact, ALI? So if somebody is very accessible, like my wife works for the CEO, and they're likely because they have some green stuff on their website and they employ 80 people. Well, that sounds like a good choice to prioritize. And that's where you want to spend your time in writing the letter, making the phone calls, planning and doing the meeting, doing the consistent follow-up that ultimately will allow you to contact these people as we are doing now and say, hey, this is a critical time in Congress. Will you join us in our meeting with Jared Huffman and Mike Thompson this month? Will you sign this custom letter that asks them to support carbon pricing, particularly carbon fee and dividend that meets our criteria, et cetera, et cetera. So that's part of the beginning. And once you have identified these people, you've prioritized them, you have researched them, and you might find somebody who doesn't want to do phone calls, it doesn't want to write emails, but they love to research. Well, they can go on the websites, they can go on to LinkedIn and find out enough about that company and the people with whom we want to meet to make it for much more likely that they'll read our email, they'll reply and say, yes, I'd like to meet. And then when we finally do meet with them, this is so much like the way we work with members of Congress. Look kind of familiar. We work in teams. We do our research. We do our homework. We'll talk a little bit more about the meetings, and you'll get a chance to practice that later. But same principles apply. So the contact part is trying to get that. And this can take a long time. I mean, I've had some examples of a year and a half before somebody finally replied. How am I doing in time, Randy?
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
How about 2 more minutes?
Okay. Yeah, took a year and a half. And when they finally did reply, they said, "Oh, Bruce, I'm so sorry. I've been so busy and this just hasn't been a priority." It was SunPower, one of the largest solar manufacturers. So you just have to be patient, polite, professional, and persistent. And boy, I just think of that stuff every day in this work. By the way, I'm pretty much of a full-time volunteer on this now, along with Harold. So well, it's a lot of work. I'll just tell you that. It can be a lot of work. Okay, the last part is the engage part. This is what you think of. You're going to go in now, and how are you going to hear them and relate to them and get a relationship where they're willing to listen to all this great information that Harold just presented. And we'll talk more about all the details with meetings, but the same principles apply, like with members of Congress. You go in with an appreciation. You talk about something that's personally meaningful to you. You listen to them and hear about what they're doing on environment. And ultimately, you make your ask or asks. So I think that's, it might be a good time to pause for questions. One last thing, that this business outreach isn't for everybody, and it's not better or worse than any other lever pooling in CCL, but I think it's probably one of the most demanding and the most rewarding, because you learn a lot of skills that you can apply in other parts of your life or for climate advocacy for the rest of your life that you wouldn't get otherwise. So I think it's worth the effort. Now, that's my little pitch, and I'll open it to questions. Is this a good time for questions, Randy? Are we
Yeah.
scheduled for that now?
It is.
Okay,
Trying to see where we're at.
I'll stop sharing.
And where did I go here?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if we arrange a meeting with a business, the vibe I'm getting is that if it's a really large business or a large organization, that maybe we should reach out to BCL and see if anyone wants to help out. Like I heard about someone got Danny Richter to join in a meeting. But if it's something smaller, we should just do it on our own.
We're here to help either way. So absolutely, if it's a bigger company now, we're trying to coordinate, with CCL in DC to make sure that everything is coordinated. So definitely, look in the Grass Tops engagement tracker. We can show you where that is. Talk to us. And in the case of most larger companies, we have a sector team. We have, somebody mentioned interest in high tech. So we have a tech sector team that can be of help and offer support. Somebody was looking at insurance and finance. We have that as well. And then on the local side, in terms of local companies, we're happy if you may have people locally that can help you, or if you're not comfortable and you want somebody to join you in talking to a local brewer or winery or restaurant, then let us know and we'll try to help and support you in that way as well.
One thing that is important is to use the Grass Tops engagement tracker, which is in CCL community. The first thing you do if you decide you're going to reach out to a company is see if the company's already in the tracker. If it is, you may see that company has a delegate that's been assigned to it. A delegate is kind of like the liaison to a member of Congress. The delegate is the liaison to the business or the community organization that you're going to reach out to. If someone else is the delegate, you want to reach out to them, find out what the status is so that you can coordinate. If the company is not there, you want to add the company to the Grass Tops engagement tracker and go ahead and list yourself as the delegate. That way, in the future, if they endorse through one mechanism or another, or if they take some other action that's supportive, we can find out that you were the contact. And when we reach out to that company to ask them to come, for example, to the April 13th conference, we'll know how to find you.
Another question?
Are the trade associations included in the Grass Tops tracker as well?
Yes.
And I'd say for that, if it's a state trade association like the Iowa Wind Energy Association, you probably don't need to worry about them in terms of checking with the DC staff. If it's a national trade association, then it's definitely, you're going to want to be talking to some other folks, because if they haven't already established a relationship, they'll want to quite soon. But what you can do is maybe open the door for them to say, hey, I live in the hometown of the headquarters. And, you know, that's the sort of thing that can be the key that gets the doors open.
Bruce, could you pop in the link to the your iced tea to the part of BCL resources?
Sure.
And
Put it in
maybe
the chat, you mean?
Rebecca, yeah, in the chat. Rebecca, if you could put in the link to the Grass Tops engagement tracker, that would be great.
Sure.
Any other
I have a
questions?
question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
have a question. We often hear that it's useful to have to work with someone in your chapter who has a relationship already with the company that you're trying to reach out to, like an employee, for instance. And what we've had trouble with is being able to really inventory all the relationships that our chapter members have in order to use them when the time comes. And I was wondering if any of you have found a good, systematic, robust way of keeping track of who your chapter members know in your community.
Yeah, Bruce?
Yeah, the Get is supposed to do that, but it was really designed to record, you know, have we contacted them and do we get an endorsement for them? It's not really user-friendly for that. So we have a template that's available through that webpage that I was reviewing. It's just basically a Google sheet. And a lot of people who are comfortable with Google will make their own. Take a look at the one we're using. I've found that what's really important is to have the company, who's the delegate, what their contact and the contact information of the people at that company. And then these two things are really important. What was the last thing that we did with them? And what's the next thing we want to do with them? So you can go in there, and it's hard to keep this stuff up, but it really pays off. You can go in and say, oh, yeah, I remember I wrote them a letter back in January, and the next thing I wanted to do was follow up with them in March to see if they've replied or whatever it was. So you can instantly figure out what it is you need to do next. And if you're managing a small team, you can go through that whole list and you can sort it by team member, and people can, you know, say, oh, here are the 3 things that I said I was going to do.
And another thing Bruce has done, I think, is, you know, who do you know? Do a who do you know campaign, you know, within your chapter, and just have everybody kind of just list people they know, or they know people who know, just so you kind of have a base list that can be useful going forward.
And yeah, and that we've done at our monthly meetings, even passing around 3x5 cards. People write names on them and we collect them and then get back to them.
Take just one more question now.
Let me answer Fred a bit more. Rebecca has been really great about providing lists of the top employers by geography. So she can do it by state. Maybe Rebecca could add a little bit more about what she can do for you. And she'll provide you a spreadsheet that lists like the top employers in some geographically defined area.
Yeah, they can be the top employers, or, you know, sometimes if you don't want to work with really large companies, there are some, you can choose employers in your area by the number of employees. So you can choose, you know, what you are comfortable with. And I can create a list based on most any constraints you come up with.
That is a great offer.
Our data darling.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. So I'm gonna take a step towards into actually doing a sample experience of actually being in a meeting. But first, kind of wanted to cover some of the things that we're asking. Harold kind of talked about that a bit. You know, on the declaration front, you know, it's about just signing a piece of paper, which is great, but it's really just a start. It's a way to get your foot in the door, our foot in the door, towards a deeper relationship with these companies. So the other things, you know, and something to focus on in your practice meetings here is an asking them to join us for 2 hours on April 13th to listen in about what we're doing, what the legislative landscape looks like on carbon pricing and climate in general, and hear what other companies have to say. As we mentioned, you don't necessarily have to publicly support, but you can privately support and engage with your members of Congress. Join us on lobby days, you know, connect us with your business networks, connect us, let us come in and talk to your employees, introduce us to trade organizations. So there's a whole list, a whole bunch of different opportunities that companies have to engage with us on. So in terms of a meeting, just quickly, you're probably all familiar with how we go about our meetings with members of Congress. So similarly, it's really wanting to be upfront about just quickly introducing ourselves, wanting to be respectful of the time that these executives have that they're giving us, and really focus on an appreciation. So we've done a bit of research. There's something that we can say positively about the steel company or whatever it is, even though they may be burning a lot, they may be, trying in these certain areas to do something different, sustainable, or supporting community activities, et cetera. And try and figure out exactly how what we're doing fits into, and can help support their business in terms of what our overview and how we introduce what we're doing, and the EICDA really focused on, what tangibly is useful to them as a business. Really looking at having an open discussion. We're not going to have a lot of time today in a 10-minute meeting, but wanting to really think about kind of open-ended questions that we can ask to get them talking, so we're not doing all the talking. And then having a specific ask for them, and of course being able to follow up on those details. So this is a quick sample. This is a 5-minute. We're going to jump into where we can do a 10-minute meeting. This is a short example of what a 5-minute meeting with an executive might look like, both the good of it in terms of moving things forward, and I would say the challenge, or the not challenge, but just it's okay, the humanness of the empty spaces, or not quite sure what to say, or kind of us just kind of navigating our way. So
We had to use our great acting skills to look boring and incompetent, is what he's trying to say.
yeah, I have to reshare my screen here to make sure I have sound. Okay, can somebody give me a thumbs up if they can hear sound?
Hey, good morning, Bruce.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing good, as best you can
Great.
these days.
Oh, a lot of stuff going on. Randy and I are just delighted that you have time to meet with us today, so thank you. In fact, just to make sure, what's your time frame like?
I got about a half an hour.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Well, I gotta say straight off, I'm one happy customer. Thank you for the solar panels. Your crew did an excellent job, and we're loving them. So thank you.
Great. I'll let them know.
Please do. Okay, so as you know, we're here to talk to you about Citizens Climate Lobby and the work that we do, the bipartisan work that we do. And we're, again, just really glad for your time today.
Sure.
Did you get a chance to look at the information we sent along, Bruce?
I did. I just skimmed over it, though. I'd like
Okay.
a recap if you could.
Oh yeah, happy to. So as Sarah said, we're part of Citizens Climate Lobby. We're volunteers, and there's over 200,000 of us in the US. And we have local chapters in every congressional district. And as Sarah mentioned, we are working on bipartisan to raise bipartisan support for climate action. So we're meeting with every member of Congress 3 to 4 times a year. And we have been instrumental and are engaged in getting federal carbon pricing passed, specifically a bill that's now introduced in the House called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. And the 3 tenets of that are putting a steadily rising price on fossil fuels at the source, taking all that money and giving it back equally to every US citizen on a monthly basis, and having a border carbon adjustment to make sure that US businesses are competitive. And also, I think even more importantly, or equally importantly, is to encourage other countries to enact similar policies.
Yeah.
So we believe this overall framework is both, it will be good for your business and good for the economy as a whole. It's will grow jobs, it will lower pollution, which is great for our health, and it's great for the environment in that it will help get us on track to meet what scientists are telling us is essential in terms of lowering greenhouse gas emissions.
As a business person, Bruce, and the industry that you're in, the carbon-free industry, it's really important to understand that this is a market-based solution. Randy and I both know that you worked on some cap and trade policy, and so wondering if you have
it's just in a nutshell, what's why do you like carbon fee and dividend better than cap and trade?
Well, most importantly, it's equitable and it's transparent. It's a simple solution. It's a market-based solution,
Mhm.
and it works across the board.
Yeah, yeah, gasoline as well as power plants, I understand.
Exactly.
All right, that sounds good. So I'm interested, and my partner, I will talk to my partner about this, and if she goes along with it, then we'd like to be able to help you. What would that look like?
Well, you have a lot of options. You can talk to your employees. You can talk to your colleagues, especially since you're in the carbon-free industry. They're a significant voice as well. And you can meet with us, with your members of Congress to support this bill. And what would be really great is if you went ahead and considered signing an endorsement for the act. I believe we sent over a link to the carbon-free declaration. You should find it there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
To you again if you can't find it. But you know, having your support and others in your industry put your signature on to this declaration would be really important.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, do I get a commission on any referrals?
Absolutely, of course.
That's the way it works. Well, boy, I really appreciate the time you're spending on this. I've really got to go now. If I have any more questions, should I get in touch with you or?
Please do, and we'll make sure to follow up with you as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and
we're
happy
really
to
grateful.
happy to meet again. Happy to meet with you and your with your partners or employees or however we can, whatever we can do to support. We're here.
Yeah, well, considering the dark skies that we've got out there, I really appreciate all the work that you folks have put into this over the years, and keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and we're looking forward to working with you too.
All right.
Take
Well,
care.
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Greg, you had a question.
Yeah, I was actually more to follow up on his question. If he didn't log off yet, I don't know. I'm on my bike and I actually took a call from Zori Zimmerman, who was pictured on our opening slide of today's session. So how weird that she called me. So one of the answers that I usually give, check me on this, guys and gals. When somebody says, what about cap and trade? I heard somebody say, well, you know, a fee and dividend or carbon tax is market-based. Well, they're both market-based, but to me, one of the biggest problems is cap and trade is sectoral. In that way, it is more like a regulation, whereas a tax or fee is literally economy-wide. Is that spot on, or?
You're spot on.
Right, okay. I just want to, you know, because I that's how I usually counter that. And I find that makes, you know, cap and trade, while market-based, is much more like a regulation, isn't it? It's usually targets an industry, right? Electricity generation, for example. And hence is not economy-wide. And so as Harold aptly pointed out earlier on, when you read the US Chamber's statement or any other group like APIs, and they say economy-wide price on carbon, that's code for carbon tax. Right?
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks,
One
Greg.
could
Thank you.
push back on that to say that cap and trade doesn't have to be just the electric power industry. It can be at the mine mouth and it can be at the wellhead, just like our fee is.
Cap and
So really the benefit to me of carbon fee is that it involves all of the citizenry in getting their support for this so that it lasts a long time. Getting that check in your hand is something you don't get from carbon fee and dividend. That's the key difference.
Yeah, you don't get from cap and trade, you mean? Yeah, you do
You
get
don't
from,
get
yeah.
cap and trade.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
do
yeah.
get it when you get a dividend, though.
All right. Well,
And you know, following up on that just very quickly, you know, Rex Tillerson has that famous 5-minute and 20-second clip where he compares when the industry was under threat of cap and trade, for those who don't know, and you could type it in the chat if you want to, bit.ly/Tillerson, lowercase, and he talks about was when the industry was under threat of cap and trade. He says, well, under cap and trade, he says, you don't know where the money went, you just know you have less of it. Again, bit.ly/Tillerson. You're welcome.
thanks, Greg. Right on.
And
Greg.
the other thing to point out is that there's nothing that would keep a cap and trade from distributing its revenues to citizens. They could do the same thing there too. But and in California, we do get some money back, but they do a lot of other things with the money.
Can I ask
So
if there's
with that, I need to move on, Greg.
Oh, all right.
Thank you. But want to kind of play with the idea of us of having an experience of meeting with an executive. If you have already done this many times, great, then you'll be in a breakout session and can help those that haven't had the experience before. And if you haven't done it before, then this is a nice opportunity to just play around with it and have some fun with it and get some experience and some input in doing that. So how this is going to work is I'm going to right now put in chat the different scenarios. It's a document, and if you have problems pulling that document up, don't panic, don't worry about it. We're going to break into groups of 3 or 4 people right now, and at least somebody within your group will have that. What I will ask of you is to take 10, this has 12 here, but we're going to take 10 minutes to pick a scenario, figure out who, when you look at, sorry here, move this. I'm going to show you what it looks like. You're going to get this is the scenarios here. You're going to go into your group and you will first pick one of these scenarios that resonates with you, from agriculture to healthcare to talking to a chamber of commerce, and then assign people. Somebody's going to be the business person, and then the other 2 or 3 people will be CCLers presenting. And you can see somebody might be an expert on the subject, somebody might be kind of the timekeeper and time check, and somebody who is kind of the lead. So, and then take 10 minutes 10 minutes total in this area to kind of plan your strategy and how you're going to engage. And then I'll send you a reminder 10 minutes in, which will be about 12:05, 12:06 Pacific time. So 3:06 if you're on the East Coast, if you can think about that, to go ahead and actually do and execute your meeting, and take 10 minutes to do that. And then we'll come back together.
Yeah, I'd suggest that everybody write down 12:05 plan to meet, or end plan, start meeting, because it's easy to lose track of this if you're not watching, or didn't see Randy's note. So.
Okay, if there's any last minute questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to start putting together breakout groups, and we'll be able to go in and out if you need help with something. And Bruce, Harold, Rebecca, if you guys end up in groups together, then one of you can pull out and we'll put you back in a different group, okay?
Yeah, when we do, you'll be on this main line that we can say, put me in, okay.
Correct. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Fingers crossed, everybody.
Do it with a smile.
All I can see here, just to make sure that you guys are in different rooms. It looks like you are. All right, here we go. You should have got a little box that you can click on the join, or else it'll automatically put you in. Ed, are you here?
I'm pushing 80 and I'm retired from the electric utility industry. Well, we've got our leader here, Randy's joined us.
I just wanted to check in with you to see if you had questions or if I can help.
Hi, Randy.
Well, we were just introducing one another, and as I see it, we've got till 5 after the hour to get our roles identified.
Yeah, pick a scenario.
And the meeting by the end of 13 and conduct the meeting by time 25 and be ready to go back at time 35 after the hour. So
no, it'll be quicker. We'll go back at about started at about 5 after and come back about 15 after.
Oh, 15 after. Okay,
Yeah.
so I didn't understand the slide on that then. So one of us could be a business person and the other two, the CCL people that want to explain it to them. Scott, Karen, do you have a preference? I know Karen
Not
does.
me.
Yeah, I don't.
I'd be happy to be the business person.
And are we supposed to be?
Looks like the main roles obviously are the business leader, the CCL delegate, and a subject matter expert.
Just want to check in to see that everything's going okay. Any questions?
I think we're just getting organized.
Okay, fantastic. Keep going.
Yeah.
I think we might need a
here.
Yeah, mine are not visible.
So it's the scenarios, and I'm looking at the screen and not the cameras here. So Doug, can you see it?
I just say yes.
All right. So the scenarios are profiles for some local companies, and one is agricultural production services. One is healthcare, Everett Healthcare, company leader. For each of these, it gives a company leader. Maybe if, can you see the link in chat? Maybe if I post it again, you could see it.
Well, you can just go over it. I'd have to go to a different screen. Go ahead.
So I just put it back in chat again.
Now I can see it now.
Yeah. I'm guessing it may have been posted right after you got into the breakout room or something, Karen. I don't know.
That might be why, yeah.
Because it's a fair amount of text. So basically the industries, we could pick one right now and then we could just read the details for that one. So it's agriculture, healthcare, wind, small specialty manufacturing, small retail food, professional services, which in this case is a sustainability consultant, transportation, or the Shelville Chamber of Commerce.
Interestingly, they give a profile of the leader.
Yeah. So I think we should first pick one of them, and then we can just quickly go through the profile of the leader, what the BCL team is, and then we can do the exercise, right?
How about wind?
Well, are there any of these in our areas? Like I know, Karen, we've been working on healthcare in the Naperville area, right?
Yeah, let's go with that. That's true. That would, we have a lot more,
Yeah. Or Doug, did any of those industries I rattled off resonate with you at all?
You go with healthcare. That's fine.
All right. So I'll just read off here what it says about healthcare. So the company leader is Tamara Kenobi, CEO, alumni of Howard University, considered both an excellent administrator and community political influencer. 100
long time.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. If you're taking someone's time, you might as well tell them exactly what you want them to do in very concrete terms.
Okay,
So
well,
there
I
is that.
exactly want us to start
Hey,
our last
Randy.
meeting,
You
so
can
I'm
go
gonna go
ahead.
ahead and kick it off.
Okay.
You guys ready to go?
Tamara, thank
Great.
you so much for meeting with us today, and we really appreciate it. I just want to make sure we're being respectful of your time. How much time do we have for today?
Well, I believe that we have about 5 minutes.
Okay, great. All right, very good.
You know, we really appreciate that. And we wanted to talk to you today about what we call a carbon fee and dividend bill that basically would put a tax on or a fee on fossil fuels at the source, and then take that money and distribute it to the American people in the form of a monthly dividend check every month. And actually, there is an exception in the bill for agriculture because, you know, we know that a lot of
here, the 8 minutes and so on. We'll
Yeah.
leave us 35 after the hour. We're going to be done by the quarter after, according to
Yeah, I
Randy.
encourage
So
you to
we need to just move on with the meeting, I think.
dive
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That's
we might
fine.
have to because we're
Yeah.
already at the meeting time to
Yeah.
start.
So,
Okay.
so I think we ought to introduce ourselves to
the things that I've learned over a period of time is giving statistics. The jobs will be created and the emissions will go down and people will make more money. If I were a business person listening, I'd say, well, how does he know this? I mean, what are your core criteria? So what you say is studies have shown that. And then if they ask what it is, then you know. So I think that's a way that you seem a little bit more educated than saying this is what's going to happen. It strikes me, and my background is a lawyer, but it just seems to me that it makes a whole lot of sense. And I was given that advice by a professor. And
Yeah, that's great, John. Thank you. And of course, we do have studies, and you can say, and I'll send it to you. And send it to them after you're done meeting. Anybody else have another insight, comment, question that came up? How do I deal with this?
I have a question. Someone in our group, John, brought up a good question about how will this affect our suppliers? We were pretending that this was a big agricultural company. How to address that?
Harold or Bruce, did you guys hear that? Rebecca, if you want to, I think how to address the issue of suppliers on the agricultural side. Is that the question? It got broken up a little bit, Kristen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
If this was the ag company, the farm equipment company, and they had people supplying them with parts for their tractors, let's say, it depends on how fossil fuel intensive those suppliers are. And the ones who are less fossil fuel intensive and they can lower their prices to you because they've invested in clean energy to make their tires, then that's it really depends on those factors. But overall, the pressure is going to be pressure is going to push people away from using fossil fuels and towards innovation and creating alternatives in making whatever it is. Because so much of the energy consumption at the consumer and frontline retail level is not so much gasoline or natural gas to heat your building, but just the stuff that you buy. And that stuff, where you get it from, is going to have the biggest effect on the net carbon intensity.
One of the differentiations you have to make is between carbon fee and dividend principles and our specific bill. In our specific bill, we exempt agricultural fuels. So if you use fossil fuels on a ranch to power a tractor or whatever, that fuel is going to be exempt in our bill. Carbon fee and dividend does not do that. So that's an important distinction. Otherwise, fertilizer costs will go up because they are very fossil fuel intensive in their manufacture. So that's a cost to ag, and that will encourage reduced fossil fuel use and hopefully a switch to more regenerative practices.
Can I ask or make a comment that came up that I hadn't really thought through before, and that was someone in our group made a comment. Bill made a comment about how the way the bill will work actually will be a net benefit to those who have are on the lower economic ladder, and those folks who have lower income will actually get percentage-wise a better benefit from this. And then I thought about as the business owner, my workers, and how if they've got a more sustainable living situation, that means less turnover, less hardship for them. Perhaps a bit of a better workforce that I'm seeing, a healthier workforce, quite literally, perhaps, and also healthier in terms of economically and more stable, and that could help me as a business owner. Any other comments on that? Because that's an angle that I really hadn't heard of before.
You're absolutely right about health benefits. If you look at the Rebbe studies diagrams, I forget which the chart number is exactly, but it shows that the health sector is one of the sectors that does the best under fee and dividend. And that's because with money in their pockets, people will go out and take care of themselves.
And not to mention the working conditions. We're talking the wineries now, and people having to pick grapes in the in smoky conditions or just the heat. So that's another side of it as well. So thank you, John. Laurel, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it was a really good exercise. Having the time pressure was great because I think you're going to feel some adrenaline when you're in this in-person meeting. And so we simulated that. And I loved working with my group. Just one thing that came into my mind as we were, thinking about talking to this person is it's really similar to what I learned about in marketing, which is you want to really tailor your message to the audience and make them the center of it. And, even though we're really excited about us, shifting that lens of focus and really focusing it on who you're talking to, tailoring your message, I think can be a big thing to keep in mind as we talk with people. One little comment there. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Laurel, and appreciate the adrenaline rush that we created for you. So that's great. What was I going to say here? Thank you, Peter Joseph, who plugged in. You can look in the chat, plugged in a nice talk on environmental justice. So that relates to kind of workers and taking care of people, which of course companies would like to do. Other questions that came up? You can raise your hand or just talk away.
One was municipal resolutions. That's just one area that's my sweet spot. So if anyone wants to contact me, I did a whole session on going after cities. I got the first city to endorse HR 763, and recently I got my own city, Coral Gables. But if anybody is after municipal resolutions, you can reach out to me. I just did a session on that during the 5 Levers training 2 weeks ago. So.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, Greg is good on a number of fronts. So getting municipalities, he's also been engaged in getting chambers of commerce. He can help you there. And he's now setting up a business and construction action team. So we're starting to put more emphasis. John was talking in terms of cement and steel. So trying to look at it from that sector as well, and how what we're doing can be supportive of that. So thank you, Greg. Anybody else?
I want to just make an overall comment about when you think of community leaders, electeds, and so on, that a lot of those are business people, and you can say, thank you for your resolution endorsing our bill. Would you like to sign this letter or join us in a meeting with our member of Congress? The other thing is that just a whole network of who knows who, and you look at a list of people that are who your supporters, and don't ever be afraid to ask for referrals, because that's how a lot of people sell their products. And we're really in a very serious way a sales organization. So if you can get someone to introduce you via email to somebody else with a recommendation or any of that sort of stuff, that's a great way to sort of short circuit all of the things that you have to do to get somebody's attention and agree to a meeting with you.
Other questions?
I just want to say, that goes back to the comment a moment ago about meet them where they are. That will get us a long way. Thank you for saying that.
Is that Lance Armstrong? Who is that?
You'd think he's on something every time you talk to him.
He is. He's an adrenaline junkie. So, so while I'm waiting for a question, I just want to share here on the resource site. A couple of people mentioned in terms of specific industries they had questions about. Somebody mentioned the tech industry. If you go here, you'll see contact here for Steve Hams and Mark Friedman. So we have been very active in the tech industry. We have gotten the endorsement of Silicon Valley Leadership Group, which is the big tech and innovation advocacy group here in the Valley. So that was one. Somebody also mentioned interest in getting into talking to insurance agents. Definitely talk with John Keller, Rebecca's husband. You can get his information here. So there, he has been actively involved in engaging with the insurance and finance industry, everybody from Goldman Sachs down to smaller companies. So,
hey Randy, while you're in there, you want to just show them the page that has the contact your professionals. That's
sure.
A great way to start.
And then the other thing, yeah, this is a nice little here on this. So this is, I'll go back here to the front page into industry resources. And then you have two links here. One is to the declarations. These are all the different declarations, which will focus here since Greg is out biking. We have a biking industry declaration. We have, a good couple dozen bike shops. And then we're starting a water sports from scuba to surfers declarations. And then the other piece here is to actually get your members and yourselves to contact the professionals, the doctors, nurses, vets, dentists, to support climate action, realtors. Somebody talked about the real estate industry. We haven't really focused on real estate developers, but we're focused on realtors right now and trying to get the large real estate group involved. But you can email your realtor, your local bike shop, and Bruce is close to Bruce's heart is the solar contractors. If you have solar on your house or your business, hey, they love you at your business, so ask something of them. It makes a lot of sense for them to be solar.
And it's a very, very warm call, because they probably would love to hear from you and maybe sell you some storage or something. But in any case, you don't have to worry about all the effort involved in breaking through. If you want to just show that these things are designed to be cookie cutter, click on the solar contractors one, Randy, and right there on your screen. It's a 3-step process, and we've actually given you the text of an email you can copy and paste into your email program, and then you wait a week and then you follow up with them, and it's all step by step. So it's a great place to start if you actually have a relationship with any of these business professionals. They'll step you right through it all.
Starting a chapter and just starting Grass Tops Outreach, this is a nice kind of easy way, the declarations as well as this, a way to get your members to do simple things. As Bruce said, this can be hard and taxing, can take a while, but it can also be simple, meaning there's people we know already that we have relationships with that we can connect to. And again, you don't have to be, you can be like Bruce and be devoting your retirement and all your time to this work, or you can say, I'm going to focus on this one company or these two companies in my area. So, you can take off what is comfortable to you to chew. So
thanks.
If I can take one more question, and then we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back. So anybody have a question in terms of the role-playing exercise or what came out of that, or your frustrations in that?
Just make one general comment. It was wonderful to figure out who's brought what to the table and complement each other. So that the tea part of the iced tea was really good.
Excellent. With that, what we're going to do next is we're going to take a 5-minute break. Everybody can go stretch, get some tea. And then we're going to, when we come back, we're going to break out into a couple groups and get a chance just to talk a little more specifically about your what's going on in your area, people you may know, areas that you want to contact and or you need some help in doing that. So would love for you to come back, but understand if you can't. So it's 12, I have 12:30 on the West Coast right now, 3:30 on the East, and we'll come back here at 12:35, 12:36, 3:36. So with that, go for it. And we'll see you in a couple minutes.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah, Bruce.
Do we want to talk about how we want to break things out, given the interests and the locations and all of that?